Okay, hi everyone. I am Kiana Porter Isom of Edupreneur Today. I am a career coach and income strategist for teachers. And what that means is I help teachers who are looking to supplement their income while they're in the classroom make a plan to make that happen. And teachers who are looking to transition out of the classroom, I help them to put the steps in place so that they can secure positions outside the classroom. And I am joined today by Miss Diane Diaz, who's a personal branding expert. So I'll let her introduce herself, please.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Kiana. Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Diaz, and my company is The Brand Teacher. And as a personal brand coach, I help professionals, executives, entrepreneurs understand how to define their own personal brands so that they can stand out from their competitors, connect with their audience more deeply, and thus generate more revenue.
Right. And so that is perfect today because I'm a former classroom teacher who's kind of ventured off into this entrepreneurial space and have had to use social media platforms to build my personal brand. And so I'm sure that the conversation that we're going to have today about LinkedIn is going to be super helpful for all of my teacherpreneur friends. And so Diane and I are going to talk today about how to use LinkedIn. And from my opinion, LinkedIn is probably one of the most powerful social media platforms for professionals, but it's highly, highly underused. What do you think about that, Diane?
I would 100% agree with that. I think that people tend to think of it only as a place where you go and make a connection and then that's it.
Right.
But they don't use all of the things and all of the features of LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has changed a lot over the years and become even more effective and with a lot more capabilities and features to be used to make those connections and whatever it is you're looking to do with your career goals. So definitely underused.
Right. So before we jump in, could you just start by, and you kind of have done a little bit of that already, but just kind of give us, for those of us who may not know like what LinkedIn is, could you just tell us what is LinkedIn?
Sure. So LinkedIn is a professional networking platform or site. So think, you know, Facebook, and Facebook is more of a personal networking platform online. And LinkedIn is for the professional space. So it's not where we go and post pictures of our dog and things like that, but it's where we go to make professional connections, do some networking, maybe learn some things and share some things we know, and publish content. There's all sorts of things that you can do with LinkedIn, but it's a professional space.
Okay. And so for someone who is either brand new to LinkedIn or maybe not brand new to LinkedIn, has had a profile but not completely optimized their profile. So what are your top 3 tips for like packing a punch with like a powerful profile on LinkedIn?
Yes. So the first thing I would say is, if I'm just limiting it to the top 3, the first thing is you must have a profile image.
Okay.
Please do not keep the little gray silhouette man that comes up when you first sign up. If you are looking to make a connection with someone, they want to connect with a human being. And when you don't have a profile image, it either feels like you really don't want to connect, or it feels like you're hiding something, or there's something not completely genuine, right? So by showing who we are, we're saying we want to make this personal connection, and that's what that's about. It's about building connections. So that's number one. Number 2 is to make sure that you craft a unique professional headline. Now, your headline is that little text underneath your picture, your profile picture, that usually if you don't go in and edit it, it will just pull from your last job title. So for instance, mine would say, because I actually work at Full Sail as well, but mine would say course director, but nobody knows what that is, right? So I edited mine to have in there some keywords about who I am and what I do. So definitely very personalized.
Okay. I like what you said about your headline, speaking about who you are and what you do. I see so many people whose headline talks about the company they work for. And we can talk about if that's good or bad later.
Sure.
But I like what you said about who am I and what do I do? That's awesome. And then what was tip 3?
So tip number 3 is to write an engaging LinkedIn summary. So the summary is what comes next underneath your contact information. And the summary is not your job description. It's not a little mini resume. You'll have room for that below the summary. But the summary should capture your personality, but also contain those keywords of what you want to be known for. So that if somebody, because LinkedIn is indexed by Google, so you want to make sure that you're using keywords. If I want to stand out for personal branding, I need to be talking about that in my summary. But I also make sure that my summary has some of my personality in it, right? Some of the flavor of who I am, because I want people to connect with me on a personal, deeper level, more than just, I'm this job description, right? So personal, keyword optimized, and engaging.
Okay, perfect. So I heard you say use keywords in your summary, but also keep it personal and engaging so that people know that like you're a real human being, right?
Yes. Now, and obviously you'll tailor that based on the industry you're in, but you want to come across as a human being.
Absolutely. Right. So most of my audience, as you know, are either teacherpreneurs, classroom teachers looking to become entrepreneurs of some sort, or educational consultants. And so this question is for those people, and it's how can they use LinkedIn to grow or expand their personal network?
Right. So the first thing I would say is when you go to any function and you meet somebody and you get a business card or just, chit chat with them, I highly recommend connecting with them on LinkedIn. And I have gotten into the habit of, I do it immediately. So as soon as I get home, I get on LinkedIn with the business cards and then I connect with them on LinkedIn. Now, when you do that though, don't just hit connect and then hit send because it's going to send the generic connection request. You want to personalize it. So you could say something like, it was a pleasure to meet you at the exiting yesterday or today, this morning, this afternoon, whatever. I'd love to connect further and add you to my network on LinkedIn. And that not only is a personalized invitation, but it also opens the door to connect further. That's what we
and so I like how you're taking in-person connections and bringing them back online. I like having like real face-to-face personal connections instead of just like only connections that are based online. So that's an awesome tip.
Yes, and you can connect. You can also connect with people you might meet online. I've done that before too, but it is great to kind of mix those worlds for sure.
Right. Right. And so what about growing your personal network on LinkedIn in ways other than just connecting with people that you've met in a face-to-face situation?
Yes. So I would recommend that you do things like use the LinkedIn Pulse. Now, I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with LinkedIn Pulse.
Okay.
It is their sort of blogging / publishing platform. So if you can find it in your little header bar at the top, it's one of the, when you scroll over the options, when it drops down, it'll show you Pulse. And when you create articles and blog posts and things like that on your subject matter, so what you know about, you establish yourself as an expert, right, in the industry that you're in, and that's shown to your connections, but also people can share it. And you can also go into LinkedIn Pulse and read the articles there and follow people that aren't your connections. Okay. So that's a way for you to sort of expand your network beyond. So if you find someone who wrote an article that you love, you can comment on it and then follow them. So now you're building connections that way.
I like that because I've used LinkedIn Pulse to just kind of digest content, but I've never like thought about it as a tool to like intentionally grow my network. So that's a really something that I'm gonna look into doing, right? And so since we're talking about expanding and growing our network, let's talk about groups on LinkedIn. And so groups on Facebook are huge. I'm in probably 10 or more groups, and I love interacting and engaging there because it really is a smaller community. You can connect with people there. But how do LinkedIn groups differ, or how are they the same as groups in LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think there are some nuances between them. I feel that Facebook groups are a little more casual.
Okay.
Right? So when you're connecting and posting and commenting in the LinkedIn group or in the Facebook groups, although it might be a professional group on Facebook, it feels a little more casual in tone.
Right.
Whereas the LinkedIn groups that I've been in are very topic specific and very professional.
Okay.
So, you know, they sort of stay that way. So that's a little bit of a distinction between the two. So you just should know that going in.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah.
And so I also was having a conversation with someone about LinkedIn groups. And we were talking about connecting with people on LinkedIn that are not first or second level connections. And so when you kind of start to get into trying to connect with like third and fourth level connections, LinkedIn will ask you, how do you know this person and things like that. But so a tip that I received was, if you join a group that a person is involved in, you automatically become, is it a first level connection or a second?
I don't know if you automatically become a first level connection, but I think because you're in the same group, you can send them a connection request.
Exactly. And so using groups in that way is a really great way to connect with people, right, that you may not otherwise have access to via LinkedIn. And so when I'm talking to people about connecting with like recruiters for certain companies that they're really interested in, or human resources professionals, there is these huge groups on LinkedIn that recruiters and human resources folks join. And so joining those groups to become connected to those people might be a strategy that you could find helpful if you're using LinkedIn in that way.
Absolutely. You can research who the recruiters are to find out, you know, what recruiter companies are doing heavy recruiting in your industry, then start seeking out the groups that they're in and get in there. And when you're in those groups, you can just look around, but it's going to be much more effective if you actually post, share, comment on what other people post.
Now that's just like with Facebook groups, right?
Yes, absolutely. You can just lurk, but lurking is really not going to get you anything, right?
Right. If you have a connection, lurking may not be the best way to do that. And then, so one more thing that I just thought of about groups is because you said some of these groups are large, is if you join some of the smaller groups, it could be a little bit easier to just make those personal connections that way.
Yes, absolutely. Because some of those groups I've noticed will have thousands and thousands of people in them. So it's hard to have your voice heard that way.
Right.
And there's, you know, a lot going on and a lot of people, but you're right. If you join smaller groups and more focused and targeted groups, you know, there may be fewer people, but your voice will be stronger in those groups. So that's a great point.
Absolutely. Have you noticed that LinkedIn groups are more or less active or about the same active as Facebook groups?
I think most of them, in my experience, are less active.
Yeah.
But again, I think if you're very targeted about which group you're in, then you can have your voice heard. And if you're a real go-getter, maybe you're the one that can create the action happening in that group, right? By posting and sharing and commenting and asking questions and things like that. So it's a good opportunity to take sort of a leadership role in stimulating that discussion.
Right, for sure. So with the idea of, you know, making connections and building networks in mind, I'm thinking about a teacher who is in the market to leave the classroom maybe, and who wants to, you know, just explore outside things. And so maybe they want to use LinkedIn as a tool to like do a job search or to do a consultancy search. How can LinkedIn be used in that situation?
Well, I think the same rules would apply. So you want to have a presence, first of all. You want to make sure that your summary and your headline are keyword optimized, because recruiters are going to be searching for those things, right? So you want to think about, if someone's searching to hire somebody for whatever position or role that I'm seeking, what words are they going to use to do that, right? So start to think about what keywords you have in your profile. And then again, I can't stress the importance enough of using something like LinkedIn Pulse, because if you're looking to get hired in a certain position or move into a certain direction with your career, you want to establish yourself as an expert in that industry. And nothing does that better than creating content that demonstrates that you know about that, right? And then by doing that in the blogging platform and LinkedIn, you're going to get way more people to that than you're going to get to maybe your own website with your blog, right? And it's going to be people in your network, and it's going to be those people sharing it with other people.
Okay, so I hear you talking about posts and using posts to establish yourself as an expert. So I have a question.
Yes.
Can you post the same content that you would post on your blog on LinkedIn to kind of establish authority in that way?
I have done that. I do that. I will write a blog post on my website, but then I
Okay.
will also post it on LinkedIn Pulse, because I don't necessarily have the same people following my blog as following me on LinkedIn. And again, in LinkedIn, you can go through and read all the LinkedIn things by category. So someone who's not a connection of mine, who maybe doesn't even know who I am, might search, you can't really search, but you can look in categories. So my post might come up and then they go, oh, this is great. I got to follow her and share this, right? So I'm getting different exposure than I'm getting to my blog. So I do post those in both places.
Wow, I didn't realize that that it could be used in that way. So that's definitely something that I'm going to add to my content creation toolbox. And so, Diane, I'm going to ask you a question that we kind of didn't talk about in advance.
Sure.
So I'm just going to kind of throw it out there.
Love it.
But I'm thinking about a teacher who's like a teacher entrepreneur, and she has either her own like physical products or like teacher t-shirts. Those are super popular. Or she writes curriculum on her own. How can that person use LinkedIn to maybe get exposure for whatever they're doing as an entrepreneur? Is LinkedIn a good space to use for that purpose?
I think it is. I don't know that you necessarily want to use LinkedIn to try to sell, but then again, I don't believe that social media should be used to quote unquote sell anyway, because it's really about relationship building.
Right.
If that teacher is going in that direction of creating a business that way, I think he or she could use all the same tools like Pulse, groups, sharing other people's content, again, to show that you are this expert. And of course, this is another thing I should add, when you write a blog post on LinkedIn Pulse, you should, at the bottom, create yourself a little profile about you and tell who you are, what you do. And then you can include your website address in there and all your pertinent, other contact information, so that you're getting that out there as well. So that would be a way, if that person wrote an article about something, she could include that information in there. And then that way you're getting your message out about that without really selling. You're still educating your audience on a topic.
Okay, so just to kind of summarize what you just said about like using LinkedIn to sell is you're not really using it to sell directly, using it to build relationships, establish yourself as an expert, and just continue to just kind of get your name out there without like direct selling.
Correct. Yes, and in my opinion, that's the way all social media should be used, because I think when you start establishing yourself as an expert and you start building those connections, that builds trust with your audience, right? And people do business with people whom they trust. And so now when they think of, I need something with my personal, I remember that person that wrote this article about personal branding, right? So that's how you do that. You leverage that expertise that you have.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much value in what you're saying right now, because I'm one that uses LinkedIn pretty regularly. And what I found is I'm kind of always like on the prowl for like, consultant work, and never really like actively looking, but just kind of always have my eye open. And I found that companies will reach out to me without me having to first reach out to them. And I'll get a note in my inbox about a position that they think I should apply for, or am I interested in working on this project? I've gotten that a few different times without actively reaching out. And I think it's because I've done a good job of just staying in contact, staying in touch with people on network, and just kind of like just posting content and being frequent there. And so I like that you are really suggesting and encouraging the building relationships piece of it.
Absolutely. And it's really about having a presence, leveraging that presence by having a voice, right? And putting your voice out there. And you're absolutely right. Over the years that I've been on LinkedIn, I always get emails in my LinkedIn inbox from recruiters, headhunters all the time, because they are smart and they know how focused and they can be with LinkedIn and find the people that are good fits for what those roles that they're trying to fill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then on the contrary, I have clients who assume that they can just hop on LinkedIn and inbox a recruiter and say, "Hey, this is like, no, it doesn't work that way. You have to go slow to go fast with LinkedIn." And so build relationships, establish yourself, and then when the opportunity presents, maybe reach out about something that's open in that company for sure.
Absolutely, because that would be a little bit like going to a networking function in person, handing them your business card saying, "It's nice to meet you. Would you buy this from me?" And that would be really rude, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Nobody would do that.
If you wouldn't do it in person, you probably shouldn't be doing it online, right?
That's a good rule of thumb, I think.
Okay, so as we wrap up our time together, could you just give me maybe like your top tip for like someone who's brand new, starting off onto LinkedIn and who's just getting started?
My top tip would be have a complete LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
So don't leave your picture empty or don't leave your summary blank. Try to fill in everything. And LinkedIn's good now that when you're in it and you're creating your profile, it will guide you through it. It will show you what sections you should fill in. So it really is very user friendly, and you really, it didn't used to be that way. They've really maximized it now. So it really guides you through the process, and it will tell you what % complete you are. So there's all sorts of new sections too. Like if you've won some awards, there's a section for that. If you volunteer, there's a section for that. Yeah, so try to fill in as much as you can, because again, you're trying to make a human personal connection with people. So you want to show what it is you're all about. So share that about yourself so people can feel like you're human and they can connect with you.
Top tip is to have a complete LinkedIn profile. And I found it tremendously helpful that they have the % complete, because I'm always working to like get to 100%. I don't quite think I'm there yet, almost, but that's a cute little target to try to reach for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we just have one question that came in, and maybe you can help us work through it. And it is, how can I create an appropriate headline, and should I use keywords?
I'm sorry, say it one more time. How can I create
an appropriate headline, and should I use keywords? I kind of talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but if you want to just kind of revisit what you mentioned about the headline and the keywords in the headline.
Sure. So in your headline, you can go into the editor of your profile and you can actually edit that. So I would think about, what do you want to be known for? So for example, mine says something like personal brand coach, educator, and I can't remember what all it says, but I'm saying all the things I want to be known for. So if you are, let's say you're a teacher and you're shifting careers, and maybe you want to be known as, I don't know, an educational consultant instead of a teacher, put that in your headline, right? Because you have to think, what are people that are either looking for consultants or they're looking to hire people for a job, how are they going to search on that?
Right.
If you design curriculum, or if you design learning management systems, or whatever you do, put that in there. And you can, usually on Facebook and Twitter, we make them, they can be a little more fun. I recommend keeping the LinkedIn one a little more professional, but also to have the keywords in there. So definitely use keywords.
My headline says educational consultant, career coach, and income strategies for teachers, professional development specialist. So really just capture the education and use some of those keywords that I see that are very popular on LinkedIn. Not keyword heavy that it doesn't make sense or read appropriately.
Exactly. Don't do that.
But definitely using them strategically, right?
Yes. So I just pulled mine up and it says the owner of the brand teacher, personal brand strategist and coach, educator, and speaker. So I want people to know that I'm not only a coach, but I also teach and I also speak. So if you want a speaker, you can find me, right? So, and definitely you don't want to keyword, what we call keyword stuff. You don't want to just jam a bunch of keywords in there if it doesn't make any sense or go with what you're doing, right? It still has to be user friendly. So you want it to have a good experience.
Absolutely. And so what I suggest folks do, if you're not sure about what a good headline looks like, follow some people on LinkedIn who you really respect and who are influencers, and to kind of see how their LinkedIn headlines are phrased and worded and formatted, and let that kind of be a guide for how you might do yours.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to wrap it up here.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here. And I just kind of want to recap your top tip, and that was to have a complete profile. And so we kind of wrapped it up talking about some of the pieces that your headline should definitely have. So that was tremendously helpful. Diane, thank you so much for your time, and this was all very helpful. Could you just let everyone know again where they can find you online?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Kiana, for the invitation to do this. And I hope everybody got something useful out of it. But you can find me online at The Brand Teacher, and that URL is thebrandteacher.com.
Thebrandteacher.com. I'm typing it in the comments.
Yes, thank you.
And again, I'm Kiana Porter Isom of edupreneurtoday.com. You can find me and learn more about me on social media, on Instagram, which is my favorite, and Twitter at Edupreneur Today. And until next time, have a great day. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.